getting this thing started, how would you describe what it is that you do, and what you talk about in all of your videos?
Yeah, so I guess I've just started sharing um, what I want to share, and I'm passionate about on YouTube, and that's really it's just sharing, non-duality, conscious talks, and it's something I've been on that path and exploration for quite a while now, and it just felt like I was supposed to do it, and it sort of happened spontaneously. And I was like, okay, I'll just put a couple of videos out there and see how it goes. And I've had a few people like respond to it in, quite a good way. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
I'm one of those
Yeah.
people.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks to the algorithm, brought us together today.
The algorithm. Yeah. Lots of
The
people say that's how they end up.
yeah,
The magic algorithm. That's it.
the almighty algorithm. That's how I find most people
Yeah.
that I speak to. It's pretty cool.
And how did you end up doing interviews?
That's a big one, man. I never know how to answer that question when people ask me. I've just always been inquisitive, always had the question or questions of who am I? What is all this? What's really going on in the back of my head? So I figured I would just extend that curiosity to others. I have the capabilities to do so. All you got to do is send a few emails, get a microphone and a camera, and you can have your own talk show. So I figured I'm going to take advantage of that. And here we are. So
That's
pretty much
awesome.
just
Yeah.
letting curiosity lead the way. And I recognize that there's people out there that maybe they know a thing or two more than me. So take advantage of that as well, and just have some fun with it too at the same time. Have fun,
Yeah.
that childlike wonder, extend that into the interview space. And that's what I try to do with these. So yeah, did that answer your
That's
question?
it. We're exploring the mystery in some way, and
Yeah.
we're all students. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty of it is none of us know to the core, and the more we explore, the more we do realize that we really don't know everything, and that sort of just opens up so much. And there's a big humility in that as well, in just saying that there is something else, there is something bigger than just us and the me, and what the story of me wants, and how we can all get stuck in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the irony of it too, right? The more you go down this path, the more questions just keep rolling in. Answers roll in too, but I feel like for every one answer, there's two questions.
Yeah.
It's a never ending journey for me. But yeah, like you said, always the student. That's a saying. That's a yogic saying. Always the student.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's never, I think lots of people think the spiritual path, if you want to call it that, is like sunshine and rainbows all the time, or like, yeah, and it's not. It's really like, it's really going into what's happening in your experience and what's unfolding, and there's it's really the good, the bad, and the ugly. And yeah, it's everything really. And I'm just really grateful to actually be even on exploring that sort of thing and on this path, to even get to speak with people like yourself and share these kinds of things is, yeah, it's really special.
It really is, man. It's a blessing to be able to do this and have these conversations with people all over the world. I'm talking to you where you are. It's tomorrow. You're all the way across the world, but we're speaking like we're in the same exact room.
I know, it's wild.
It is wild. We take our technology for granted, but when you really sit down and think about what it is, it's almost quite literally magic.
Yeah,
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 yeah, man.
yeah. What's your idea on, like, technology and I guess the path, the conscious path of the human being, and where technology
Where it
falls
fits.
into that.
Yeah.
If it fits, yeah. If it can fit.
Oh, I think it fits for sure, but it's like all in how we want it to fit for us. It's we have the ability to use it or abuse it. Or maybe in other words, you could say we use it or it uses us. So it's all in how we decide to use it. Yeah, I don't know how else to say it. It's how do I put this? It makes it so the yogic path, if you want to call it that, or all the modalities that come with it, are even more important. I feel as though a sense of mindfulness is even more important with the advent of this technology, because if not, it almost thinks for you. It's like an extension of the monkey mind. So I think it's not an accident that this mindfulness wavelength, or just an idea of self-inquiry altogether, is coming about at the same time that we're diving into quantum computing and super AIs and all of this technology that is doing a lot of things for us. I think it's not a coincidence that these two worlds are meeting. So I think it fits for sure, but you need to balance it with still a sense of humanness, that sense of, I guess, spirit, if you want to call it that. And
Yeah.
then I think that's how you become like a superhuman in a way.
And you're right. It can go either way. It can pull us into either more unconsciousness, or actually, there are so many tools there. There's so much information there to really help us become more conscious. Like, it's very much possible that the direction it heads in can actually help people, like, awaken to this state, or become more themselves. So
Yeah,
we can't say we know for sure. Of course, we can, like, have a rough idea, but I'm pretty optimistic. Like, I think, like you said, probably anything is possible. Like, it's possible that there could be, like, a consciousness or spirit that can develop from it somehow. We probably can't understand that at all, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just think about the fact that we have access to pretty much all of the information that humanity has ever published, ever, at our fingertips, like this. This sacred knowledge that used to be just passed between the select few. Secret yogic modalities or meditation techniques or just general Dharma literature. It used to just be like this almost secret, kept within just a select few individuals that could have it and pass it on. Now, all I gotta do is go on Google and I have it within 5 to 10 seconds. It's crazy. And not that you need that stuff. I'm not saying that you need to read any book, to be honest with you, but it helps. If you know how to look at it with a keen eye, it definitely helps to have that knowledge at our fingertips. So you can either look at that stuff, or you can look at cat videos. It's all in how we utilize this technology.
It's all there. Yeah. There's the pointless TikToks, and then there's all the gold and the nuggets available as well. Yeah.
So getting back to what you said, this is kind of like what I'm trying to not only I'm trying to, how do I put this, consume in the right way, but also create and contribute hopefully in the right way by having these conversations with people and putting them on recording, and maybe somebody will get something out of it. Maybe one person will see this and they see you and they follow you and you say something to them in the future that just helps them and guides them along the way, all because we decided to have this Zoom conversation one night. It's
Definitely.
there's no bounds. It's no bounds, but it really just comes down to like how one decides to utilize it in creation and in consuming. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. It can be a thing of community as well. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, back to what you were saying, it's such a good job, what you're doing, like it's so important. And I feel the same, like even though I've just started putting some videos out, it's really touched me in a way, and I've actually learned a lot as well. I've had a few people actually reach out just wanting a session to speak about
Yep.
their process and what's unfolding. And I think just to literally speak about it with someone, and it's like I feel like I get a lot out of it, but most people wanting that are like coming from a very conscious place. And yeah, it's just been really surprising, like that there is a community out there. There are people out there who like are discovering this, and there is an unfolding happening for it. And not even these like so-called spiritual non-dual communities. It just extends out to everyone. Like I have old friends from all walks of life, and I've had even some of those guys who wouldn't explore any of this really say that they feel like there is a shift happening, and people are wanting to explore more of who they are, get in touch more with their deeper self, and the collective consciousness, start meditating. And yeah, I mean, it's not apparent that it's everywhere, of course. Like there's a lot of unconsciousness in the world. I'm not saying that it is everywhere, but I really do think there is more of an extension happening, and it doesn't someone doesn't need to be spiritual or anything to realize any of this or find their being or true self. It's there for everyone. Any person, it's there for. And look, all it can do is make that person more in touch with themselves, a better person, and help people around them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree. So yeah, let me ask you this: how would you describe what it is that you do to someone that doesn't know any better? They're very curious. They're very curious on what all of this hubbub is about. That what we're talking about, finding the true self, and all that you speak on about non-duality and everything that comes along with it. They see your videos, but yet they don't know anything about it. How would you describe what that is? Or maybe like a simple pitch of what you talk about.
I would say I would say it's something that is pointing towards the nature of who we are, and moving deeper into our experience and reality. And it's something, as you know, that we are trying in some way to explain the unexplainable, but we can just use pointers. We can just say, oh, it might be a little bit like this, might be a little bit like that. So that's why sometimes lots of it can just sound like rubbish, maybe, to someone. But we are really just, that's the spiritual path, right? Is we really are just moving actually closer into reality, where I think some people, or maybe someone who hasn't explored this or doesn't know anything about it, might think that spirituality or these things about consciousness that people say is like some special state or some voodoo thing that's really far away from what's considered normal, whereas actually it's the opposite. It's just moving closer and further into reality and true reality, because most of the time, most people, and especially in the West and in the world, like most people aren't in true reality. Like what's considered normal is really a mass psychosis to some degree. Like it's disconnection from ourselves and others. So to me, that's what this path and these sharings are, is just moving more into our truth as a collective, and finding the core of that, realizing the core of who we are, and expressing that.
All right, so how would you describe who we are? So the person, this hypothetical person, is like, all right, so you're guiding me into who I am. What do you mean who I am? I'm Gary Haskins. So so how would you what is this fallacy that we're living on, this kind of false narrative? How would you describe this distortion of our identity?
Well, that's it, isn't it? In some way, it feels like it is a bit of a paradox in some way, because when we say, "Oh, well, you're guiding me more towards the true me, or more myself," it's like there's the self which we consider and we've believed that is us. Most of our experience, which is a lot of it, is conditioning, but it's what is the apparent person. So it's like what appears to be us, how we present ourselves to people and the world, what we like, dislike, the story of us, I am Bill Brown. I love croissants and I don't like, PlayStation or whatever. And just, so there's that self, which is really it's the constructed self, but in a way that is some part of the divine as well, in some sense, because we all are, even if it is just what appears, we all are unique individuals in that sense of what we present to the world. But there is what this is aiming towards is our true self, that is impersonal, that doesn't, it's not a personal thing. It's actually, it's the self that emanates from source consciousness, or that field that we're all connected to, which is life, because we usually go through this, and it happens to all of us, like thinking that like everything's happening to us, and we have a life and we're not part of it, when really, like, I'm sure you've had these moments as well, like when we really tap into it, like we are just a part of this. We are a part of the whole, and it's not a personal thing. And I think that's where true freedom can come from, and we can break out of a lot of suffering, is tapping into that, and like just exploring that.
I agree, man. Well said.
If that makes any sense. Yeah,
it made sense to me. I get it.
Okay.
So when we break out of the sense of separate self, the Gary, the no, the listener. It's not exactly like the sense of separate self disappears, but we figure out that the sense of uh, separate being is part of a greater being. We're part of each other, essentially. We're part of this one unmanifest being that isn't even a being. It's not even a self or a thing. It's quite contrary, but I can't speak on. It's hard to speak on the unspeakable, like we said.
It just is. It's just this like. It's just this thing that we. It's hard because we can't really describe it. Like language and words can't really point towards it, but we know it. We know it on a deeper level that it's there, and but we can't explain it.
Yeah.
So
it's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's not there in any sense of locality or linearity. But it is the unmanifest. It's the Purusha. It's the Brahman of everything. And that's what we all are a part of. So once one, I guess this is extending on the pitch. It's like I see as though once one gets guided toward that, maybe has some revelations. I find at least, yes, things become less personal, right? And in that impersonality of experience, there's less clinging to, or there's less aversion to the events that happen. And that's what it is. It's just a happening. Things just happen. There's nothing happening to me per se. It's just something that is an experience. And in that, I find as though there's a sense of equanimity between experiences. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, they're all pretty much the same to this unmanifest aspect that we all are. And things just sort of happen like a movie,
Yeah.
So I feel as though if there is this path, something that we, some path that we tread, it's like slowly peeling the layers back of identity so that we can find out the witness, if you want to call it the witness, something that's just persists throughout all the phenomena of our life. And then in that, there's no suffering. It's a sense of peace. Would you agree? Is there more peace in your life?
Absolutely, because as you said, when there is that realization of, we do come from the whole, from the one, if you want to call it that, or consciousness. There's all these different words.
Mm-hmm.
There's a profound sense of gratitude that whatever's happening in this experience, like you said, there isn't the me that's really attached to it or in it as much. So it's whatever's happening, whether a negative experience, positive experience, negative thought, feeling, all of it in some way is special. It just feels like that when there's the impersonal realization that in some way, regardless of it being good or bad, like all of it is special. Like, it is just a happening. But going back to what you were saying, there is less suffering. There's more peace because, it just does feel like a coming and going. But it's a beautiful coming and going. It's not.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this recently, and I know some people usually say this about people touch on bypassing, but it's bypassing the experience. And to me, it's actually not. It's taking the good, the bad, and the ugly, and really appreciating all of it. And I think when people touch on bypassing, they say, oh, well, this realization, then it's like, well, then you're not looking at, the negative things in your experience, or really feeling or reacting to, unpleasant experiences or whatever wounds that person may have. But I think it's about finding that middle ground where, like, we can have both. We can have that realization, and we can sit in that space of deeper awareness in our true being. But we can explore the nitty-gritty stuff as well, and we can go into that because it's important to go into our shadow self. But so there's a middle ground, I think, for people, and also not being on the other side of just some people. You see, it can become almost, it looks like it can become a cycle of just going through their negative experience or exploring that, and then you're not able to then actually rise above that and go beyond what's happened to me and the painful feelings around that. So it's just having that perspective and that, like you said, middle ground and balance. Yeah.
Yep.
And so it always comes back to that, is there's the deeper I, which is what we all are, emanating from that one. And then there is the nitty-gritty human experience, which is, even though it arises and it just happens, it still is happening. Like, yeah. So
well said, man. And that's the thing about the human experience, is no matter what, it's going to be nitty-gritty. It's dukkha, it's the first tenet of Buddhism. It's going to be nitty and gritty. So I mean, it's like
everything is dukkha. That's what they.
Yeah.
That's what it says, right? Have you explored much Buddhism?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm a Buddhist, yogi Christian, I like to say. Somewhere in between those three. Yeah. There's a lot of similarity between those three. I mean, hey, man, the truth is the truth. No matter which way you want to flavor it up, they're all just there's a saying that I always like to keep in the back of my head. It's the truth is one, and the wise call it by many names.
Yeah, they're all just words at the end of the day. It's like, the
middle way is the way, though, which is what the Buddha exactly described as the middle way. There's something very special about that, being able to reside in that. And I'm not saying I'm there. I'm not 100% perfect, but I think it's a good ideal to hold, being able to be equanimous in all the phenomena of Prakriti. No clinging, no aversion. If that's a goal, if there's a goal to this thing, it's to be completely at an equanimity to one's karma. Can you do that? I mean, I guess I don't see why not. But then the separate self gets in the way, and it gets in the way. Yeah, it's like it takes us away from that equanimity. It has like a different motive,
Yeah, and it doesn't want the separate self, if you want to call that, I guess, the false self or ego structure. Like it doesn't want us when we do lose that resistance and that sense of separation, and there is that opening to our true nature and more of reality. Like the ego and separate self, it doesn't really want us to go there. It feeds off just being in control and, having that sense of control. And in some way, it does feel like, maybe in my experience, somehow, like it feels like it's relying on a safety to some degree, or trying to like, oh, well, I know this, like I know everything, and coming back to wanting to understand everything. And we all like to feel like we know what's happening and that we understand it, and it feels like there's a safety in that, but it just holds us back from who we really are, and getting deeper with ourselves and this beautiful experience.
I think it's a false sense of safety that's held in the egotistical mind state. It's almost like the separate self thinking, if you want to call it that, has a cap, It has a cap at I don't know what the rational thinking, logistical thinking, and that safety net is capped somehow in that sense of separation. It doesn't. How do I put this? It's a false sense of safety in a false. How do I put this, man? I'm getting kind of like caught up in my words, but pretty much it's an illusion. Like it doesn't. It fits the idea of safety and security in the way of like our lower standards of like animalistic, of our actual sense of separation, like our needed sense of, say, like defense in our evolution, our needed sense of just having like slight boundaries, like our lower self is needed, right? It's actually needed to have that self-defense mechanism in a way, to know, to have a basic sense of self-preservation so that I don't go jump in front of a truck right now.
Yeah.
It's needed.
Or that I shouldn't put my hand in this fire on the
Exactly.
stove because it's going to burn my hand. It's
that's
like
what I'm trying to say. Exactly.
There's levels of, and all of that exists within thought, right? Like the separate self of like, yeah, it's purely just thought, but there is it's not saying with this path that, oh, you shouldn't, one shouldn't think anymore. It's like there are important thoughts for our survival, like what am I going to eat tonight, or what time does my flight leave this afternoon? But what this is pointing towards, what where our true being comes from, and that's what it comes down to, is like when there is that removal of separation and we are moving out of thought, what we're doing is we're moving more into being, which is just a state of openness. It's just open, and in some way it's like it's just there, and it's open to anything that can arise. So I think to some people that can be like, if someone is moving into this intentionally, that can be just the most like blissful, beautiful way to be. Like it's absolute bliss. But then to others, that realization could probably be a little bit terrifying in some way, just that state of openness, because it's like just that void, that Buddha nature, that, or whatever words you want to use for it, that could probably be a bit scary for some people, because it's like that false sense of feeling like everything's in control and it's safe is just gone. So
I know what you mean. That's when I could see one, and I've had this before, this is personally speaking, being caught up in that false sense of security, thinking you have it all figured out, and then that idea of being open, free, naked, in that Buddha nature, that is like a sense of, it's like a sense of dying in a way. The self, the lowercase s self, doesn't want to die to the uppercase s self. It's that self-defense mechanism that's just built into us, that sense of security, preservation, that's built into us. And I feel as though that's what we're doing in a way. It's like we're unconditioning ourselves to reach a transcendent sense, to see past that. It's like those don't disappear per se, those ideas of self-preservation with the lowercase s, but they're just a little bit different when one opens themselves up to the reality of what is, you could say. It's the difference. I see it as like there's levels, even though I know in the true sense of the absolute there's no levels. We can just say there's no levels. But I guess in the way that we're speaking right now, there's levels. And if you cap one's self at the separation, it's like, it's tough because you can get caught, you can get caught in this, like, it's like a loop.
It is. It's like a loop of the person, the imagined person. If that's if that's all that is believed, like I am 100%, if it's 100% like I am this person and, you know, everything's happening to me, and it's always just a loop of existing in like wanting to know and right or wrong, I like, dislike, and
samsara.
It's painful. It if you could imagine just like a box, and it is like a structure that's like limiting, and you know, as humans, like we've got so much potential. And I'm thinking of, I go every now and then in Sydney here I actually go to like a Buddhist group just to purely like meditate and be part of, you know, I have that sort of thing with a few different groups where, you know, you just go to meditate and speak about stuff. And yeah, it's a really important and special part of my journey. But one night we were speaking about, there was an image that got shared of, I think it's William Blake. I could be completely wrong. Do you know who William Blake is? I think
is he an author?
Yeah, I think he was a philosopher, and also he touched on a lot of spiritual topics, but I could be off there. I don't want to say
Come up real quick.
I know. Yeah, but there's a photo or a painting that he painted, and it's of a guy standing just bare naked. If you look up William Blake naked man photo,
get some questionable results on that one.
Yeah, that could come up with some.
I think I got it. But, Albion. Oh, this one's cool. Hold on, let me share it.
Yeah,
might have to blur out some.
With his arms open, and there's a field around him, and like coming out of his head, emanating from his body.
It's not.
And it's okay.
How's that look?
But yeah, what that is? Yeah, that's the one. And what that painting actually meant is that he's pointing towards that there's more to the human. Like there's this spirit in all of us that's just this raw openness, and it's arms open, and it's naked, and it's bare, and it's not just, it's the spirit what's emanating, but it's also like the body as well. It's, even though we are the body, it's like, it's, I think the body in that is the sort of metaphor for like, you know, wow, all of it is the divine, and humans are, we are part of something much bigger. We all have a spirit that's connected. But yeah, I just found it to be a really striking image.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I like that. Yeah, we're just naked here. I like that. It's just here, vulnerable. But in that vulnerability is freedom. Is liberation.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's no bounds. Do you feel as though with this mindset, there's more potentiality in your action? Like I think we talked about bypassing, and I feel as though one could string along bypassing maybe a sense of inactivity in this, or at least they could connotate that this one could get on the wavelength of inactivity, like, oh, just live in the moment, man. You know, that cliche, like the hippie mindset.
Yeah.
But would you say it's quite contrary to that? And once one kind of opens up to this greater sense of self, that the sense of self that it is within the body acts as a greater expression to that greater sense of self. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, it can almost, it can feel like it can work together in some way, like back to the paradox when you realize, you know, when consciousness does come through for that person, there's a recognition of that. Then also that can work with, you know, the person that goes out in the world and does whatever it wants to do, and actually tapping into that, like we can feel this in meditation, you know, that to consciousness or our nature, there is no bounds, like it's boundless. And so it's a lot of it, and after a while that can happen for people, is it's lowering the default mode network and the limits, and really, like, so much of what we limit ourselves to is just through the mind and how we think. So getting in touch with this, it shows us that, wow, like so much of the limits we put on ourselves are just created in the mind. They're just ideas. So then, some people can choose to, there's nothing to do. It's just a perfect state. I can just sit here all day and stare at the roof. And maybe it can be like that for some, but also it's like, no, like there's just infinite potential, because it's like, whoa, you know, you would know what this feels like. It's just, wow, there's just potential, and you know, we can go out and do something with that. Like there is stuff we can do here to help, just like what you're doing. And you know, if someone realizes that, it could be like, wow, I want to go out and be of service and really help a cause I care about and make a difference, or you know, really it can really help, like learn to master the field that I'm in, whether that's like something, you know, in business or the arts or sport, and really approach it from that place of consciousness and the impersonal. And I think the field of possibilities there is just endless. I think we're probably only just getting started with like what, you know, with getting in touch with our conscious self, with really what can come from that. And I think all the best work that we see from people in the world, and it doesn't matter, it can be any job, whether it is in business, in the creative arts, or in sports. I think any of the best work in those fields, probably it comes from that space of just openness and presence, and it's stepping out of what the mind likes to control and the thinking mind, and it's stepping into that higher, that intelligence that is impersonal. It's that universal intelligence that is really, it's a field of just possibility. So it's a path, though. It's a journey, and it always feels new. Even, you know, the more I explore it, the more new it feels, and it's like, wow, there's just, I don't know anything, and that's great. I'm happy with that. I don't want to. So
Right. Imagine if you knew everything. That would suck.
It'd suck. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
But was there anything you wanted to touch on? Anything else? Or I mean, I'm liking where this has gone. Yeah.
I mean, I don't come to these things prepared per se with any kind of structure. That's pretty much it, man. Touching on your point, it's that, eventually I feel as though what happens is we become more servant-like. There is just like this obligatory orientation toward just doing something, toward action. It actually feels as though more empowering as the separate self. if that makes sense. There is just a placement in one's dharma that one takes. I feel as though once one does realize there is a greater aspect of self, well, yeah, one could do nothing for sure on the couch and eat Cheetos all day, but even doing nothing is doing something. There's still energy and activity here. There's still stuff happening, I guess you could say. And we're a part of that stuff.
You're still feeling something.
Yeah. So I feel as though once one does touch upon that, that's, if anything, just the beginning. And then the fun starts. And like you said, it's a constant renewal every day. Life becomes just this constant renewal every day, just a reverie of the mystery that we're in. And then maybe creating alongside the mystery, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a play. That's what you realize is there's that freedom of, you know, being your true self, but then also it's okay to let the true self come through what we present in the world and share that, and they're like what we're doing. And there's, you know, or anything, like back to whatever work one person is doing, and there's actually a play in that, and it becomes less serious, because the seriousness only exists when there's just the sense of self all the time. So when that falls away, it's like they say, the divine play, and it's the divine play, but also there's play in another sense of like playing in our experience, like allowing ourselves to have fun and enjoy. And I think that's where true creativity comes from as well, is just playfulness, and it's not a seriousness, and it's just totally liberating and freeing, and like we all have access to that. It's not a special state, it's purely just being, and it's always here, it's always been with all of us. It just appears like it's not for lots of the time. So yeah,
it has to. We can't always. If we always knew we were all one all the time from birth to death, it's like it wouldn't be much of a play. It's like we kind of have to lose ourselves to find ourselves. That's part of the play, is finding ourselves again. You know?
It's like that expression and manifestation wants to happen, probably.
Yeah.
Probably, maybe, we can't say, but through the one, like, you know, if it is that source consciousness, if it is just pure, you know, pure being, just infinite possibility, then there must be something where it just wants to manifest, it wants to be formed, So
it's all
it's
about
just having fun with that. Like, it's amazing, man. Like, I've had a few moments like that recently where it's like, it's really special to be part of this. Like, just even the most simplest things, it's, you know, going to get laundry, going to get food shopping, going to see a friend.
Seriously?
Like, it doesn't have to be like the imagined person wants just, I guess, the fireworks. It's like, well, buying the house will do it, or getting that raise at work will be the big thing. And it's like, everything is the big thing. It's all special, and none of it is special, and everything, all of it is special. So, you know, it's like, whoa, yeah, it's almost like you just can't put it into words how incredible it is.
You can't, man. You can't. You can try, but like we said, the truth is one, and the wise call it by many names.
Yeah, and that will help us as well. Just having that gratitude will help us be more grateful for the people in our lives as well, like our family and our friends. It's like, wow, like just the behind all of our layers that we have, like our social layers, we put up, even if it's subtle, like sort of walls, we put up barriers. It's like behind that, it's pure love. It's pure love.
Yeah, man.
I think that is what we were just saying, is it's that unexplainable thing. And maybe that's why which a lot of this path, is really just, a lot of it is waking up to we will not be here in this experience at some stage. And like lots, I guess, it doesn't want to be spoken about, but it is part of the spiritual path, like, approaching that, what your relationship with that is like.
Yeah. That's huge.
Realizing more of that, it's like, it just makes you feel so grateful for everyone in your life. And maybe that's why when people do leave, which is always like, it's really hard. It's excruciating for, it's upsetting, it's painful for that person. But I think there is just that love that remains, because those barriers have been, those barriers, what we thought of as that person, has been removed. So it's just this feeling that's unexplainable, and pure love, which could be truth. Like, it's not just happy or one thing. It's just wild energy, and it probably is. It's grieving, it's upsetting, it's laughing, it's just everything. So it's that coming back to that love is everything, which, it's a mystery.
Hallelujah.
But, I went on a bit of a rant, but I hope that made sense.
Yeah, I felt it, man. Love is everything that transcends all of the coming and going of our experience, including our experience. There is always the background of love. And it's not even love in the sense that we think of as love. It's true, unconditional love. It's like so unfathomable, but it's there. It's there. It's here. It always was. It always will be. And in that, we're kind of immortal. That's what transcends the coming and going of this body and us not being here. Somehow, some way, we survive. Survive isn't even the right word, but we persist, I guess, in love. And if you can find that now, here and now, that makes this life, this temporary life, much more amazing. That's where the gratitude comes from, man. I don't know. It comes from that love. It's yeah, man. It's quite a beautiful thing to feel that really behind the scenes, it's all just love playing its game. Game. It's needed. We wouldn't, if we didn't have the separation, if we didn't have our ultimate demise, love wouldn't be so special. Like, I feel as though that's how it all makes sense. Like, we have to not be here forever, in the human form, in order for love to manifest. Because if we were, then we wouldn't love so hard. Love just wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't make sense. Like, it's part of the equation.
we couldn't realize it, because it would just be always.
Yeah, then it wouldn't be a miracle. Yeah.
Of that. Yeah, it wouldn't be a miracle. Yeah.
So, it all makes sense in that way. But yeah, truly hard to convey. I hope we're making sense talking about it right now. I mean, I don't know.
With all of this stuff is like, I think anyone who's interested in these topics, like, understands that, we can only point to it and use words and ways to explain really what's unexplainable. But I know for myself, like, there's been people who, or I have listened to talks or YouTube videos where they are of this nature, and, it really can open up that space for someone.
Yeah.
And, there's so much value in that, like sharing this sort of thing and speaking about this with someone, a spiritual brother, if you want to call it that. I know that's a pretty cheesy like term, but like there's so much value in sharing that with like someone who's on the path. And yeah, I'm not sure if you've like had much involvement in community, but I think I'm finding that nice balance between like, the solo journey, but then also being able to go share it with others and speak about it. I think there is value in that as well.
Oh yeah,
So
I agree. Yeah, man. The Buddha, the three jewels or the three gems of Buddhism. It's the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Can't forget the Sangha, man. I
the
feel
Sangha,
that's so important.
yeah,
This is my Sangha, coming on here and speaking to people like you. I don't have anybody in my personal life that I speak to, but we don't need to have that. Like, locality doesn't matter anymore. This is
no,
my Sangha.
yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
mm,
I think we touched upon that in the beginning, how amazing this technology is. And that's really what I think it's doing, is it's establishing sanghas that really are enabling us to see that humanity is one giant sangha. Eventually, maybe we'll see that. But
helping us connect more. Yeah,
exactly.
it does feel like some paradox in some way where like with technology, it's like you hear people like, the tech gurus and where it's heading, and they're like, oh, it's helping us connect deeper, technology. And like, even with, I guess, virtual reality, like when that hits and becomes, a big thing, it's like it could be paradoxically said that it could feel like, well, it's disconnecting us from our natural, self, our just being. But on the other hand, like it is connecting us in the same way. Like it is connecting us a lot more, I guess, efficiently in some way. Like you could have an amazing conversation and feel like you're there with that person when they're on the other side of the world. And
Like right now.
I do always think like the human connection, and you realize that more of like when you're on this path, the human connection is so important. And as humans, like we are able to transcend, and probably like what we think of as consciousness now could just be a little blip of like where it actually can go to. But I think these technologies, for example, say like, if someone puts on the VR headset and you can't tell the difference, it's so, just wow, immersive and real. It can be like, well, if that appears so real, then when I take it off, like what's this? And that could lead to an awakening for lots of people. Like I have a deep intuition that's what could happen.
I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, so like our
I
technology.
could be off there, but yeah, I know it's getting a little bit philosophical, but
No, that's good.
yeah,
Hey, that's what we're doing here. We're just having some fun,
yeah,
man. Getting
yeah,
philosophical. I know where you're
that's
getting
it.
at though. Like the technology being used almost like as a giant metaphor for our human experience. So like we're already in virtual reality, and the virtual reality goggles are going to show us that.
Yeah, well, it could be easily
Yeah,
like, you know,
I can see
yeah,
that. I like to use a lot of metaphors when speaking about this stuff that pertain to computers, because I think it's easily translatable in that way. We are just like a supercomputer. Like I like to think of the body as just like a very, very complex robot. So we just took that essence of us and put it into binary. So it's, if you can take that language of binary and computing, you can in a way transfer that to oneself and one's processing up here. Yeah. it helps if you
Yeah.
understand computers as well, like
Yeah.
technology at a base level.
I'm horrible with technology, so yeah, I'd have no idea. So maybe you could help me with some of that stuff. Yeah, I'm just happy I made it onto this Zoom, man, because like, yeah, I've just moved places, and where like I stopped my internet recently, and I was like, oh, I'll just use my phone hotspot like when I need it, and I'll see if I can just stay in the same amount of data.
Mhm.
So it's actually really good. Like the quality and feedback, like the connection even now is fine. So it seems to be
Yeah,
working. Yeah,
seems good for me, man. Yeah,
yeah.
no problems. So that's good. I'm glad you figured that
Mm.
out. Yeah. But hey, I'm glad you came in here too, man. I think we can probably start to wrap this thing up. I feel like we can
Yeah,
talk for hours. Definitely like to
I
do
know.
this again.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, I'm really grateful. Yeah, for you having me on here, and I'm excited to see where you go. And I think it's just amazing what you're doing. Like, yeah, keep it up, man.
Same to you.
Yeah, it's really special. That really amazing that you're following your truth. Yeah. Mm.
Right back at you, man. We're just reflecting each other.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you. It's only possible because of people like you. So, it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm here, I'm hosting the show, but it's a two-way street here.
Mm.
So yeah, keep doing your thing. I really, I know you just started, I guess, what, a few months ago or a year ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
on keeping on, man. You obviously people like what you're doing. I like what you're doing. So keep on doing your thing. I wish you all the best. And, yeah, let's do this again sometime in the
Awesome.
future.
I hope we can, cross paths, or maybe one day in person. Who knows?
Yeah.
Where in the US are you?
I live outside of Boston.
That's right. Yeah, you said earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe one day in person we could cross paths, or yeah, I hope we maybe some stage have another talk. We'll see where we're at down the track.
For
Yeah.
sure. I like your energy.
Yeah.
I like your resonance. You seem like a well, I was gonna say put together, but that's not even a good description. I was gonna say a well put together individual, but
Yeah.
you're just a good guy. I like you, so keep doing your thing.
Cool. Thanks, Gary. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for anybody
Appreciate
that
it.
listened. Peace and love, man. Peace and love, everybody.